Hi, I'm Jen, and welcome back to my second video where I do my makeup and talk about a book that I have recently read at the same time. I hope that as you watch, you enjoy the look I put together and maybe want to try it for yourself, or even better, you enjoy the book that I tell you about and you go out and buy it and read it. So without further ado, let me tell you about the book. This book is called Lock the Doors by Vincent Ralph, and this was purchased at Barnes & Noble. If you're familiar with the Barnes & Noble that have Starbucks inside, they often have a book, a $5 deal book at the counter at Starbucks. So when you check out at the Starbucks, they say, oh, here's this book for $5. Would you like to get it? Number one, it's a book for $5. And number two, it's a mystery. And I love mysteries, so of course I had to get it. So Lock the Doors by Vincent Ralph was published in 2022, so it is new. And I really liked it. It was a little bit slow-paced and predictable in my opinion, but that did not deter from how much I enjoyed reading it. And even though I was mostly able to figure out what was going on and like the whodunit kind of situation, I still wanted to continue reading, and I still wanted to see if I was right and how it all comes together. So let me tell you about the book from beginning while I put my makeup on. Okay, so the book starts out where it is narrated from the point of view of a teen boy. I think he's 15-ish. He's not driving. And he and his family move into this new house, and it's strange. There's a couple of little odd things that stand out to him. And as it turns out, this narrator has anxiety and OCD. So whenever he expresses concern over these strange little things, his family doesn't necessarily disregard him, but they also kind of feel like, oh, you're probably just making a mountain out of a molehill. This is just your anxiety talking. Everything's fine. You have nothing to worry about. But the weird things are, first and foremost, he notices that his bedroom and his new stepsister's bedroom have locks on the outside of the door. Well, they did. There's holes where there were like deadbolts or like the little slidey thing on the outside of the door. So he's thinking, oh my gosh, this is strange. Did the previous kids who live here, like, were they abused? Were they locked in their room? And he's genuinely worried. A little bit obsessed, I would say, but he's worried. And his family's just like, it's fine. Like, you're just, your anxiety is taking over and you're spiraling. It's fine. Let's just let it go. Everything's okay. They don't live here anymore. I'm sure everybody's safe and fine. But he can't let it go. As it turns out, though, there is a new girl at his school, and she used to live in this house. And she just moved down the street, and she also switched schools for some reason. She used to go to the local private school, but switched and is now coming to the public school. And he is called to give her like a tour of the school and show her around and whatnot. And as that happens, they become friends. They realize, even though he's kind of like nerdy and on the outskirts of the social circles in the school with his anxiety and whatnot, they hit it off and they become friends. Of course, he crushes a little bit on her, because what good story doesn't have at least a subplot of a love story? So they become friends, and he realizes, wait, she used to live in this house. Maybe she can answer my questions and help me figure out, like, maybe they moved to this new house that, by the way, her new house down the street has like this giant fence around it. You have to punch in a code to get in. He's thinking, oh my gosh, she's like held captive in her own house. I need to figure out how to save her. And the couple of times he sort of tries to discreetly ask her about it, she laughs it off and says, oh, no, everything's fine. Like, I have the perfect family. We just moved to a bigger house. Everything's fine. That's sweet, but no, we're fine. Ha ha ha. You're seeing things that aren't there. But he doesn't believe her. And the couple of reasons he doesn't believe her is, number one, he goes to, he like walks her home one night or something and meets her family. And the dad is like kind of anxious and looks like he's about to blow up and like always angry. And to the point where he's actually a little bit scared. And the mom is overly like perfect mom-ish, like, oh, welcome to our home, da, 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 da. And he feels that it's completely fake and doesn't believe that she really is welcoming and friendly and like this wonderful mom. So he's more than ever convinced that something's going on and the parents are, something's off. Furthermore, she has a younger brother who like never says a word. He only talks when he's talked to, and he just kind of like sits there and does whatever, and it just is strange. And he can also see from his bedroom window into their living room window. And every night he sees the mom and the dad and the little brother in the middle sitting and watching television, but he never sees his friend, the older sister. He never sees her. So he's thinking, you know, is she neglected and ignored and they like favor the younger brother, or, you know, what's going on? And it's also weird that every night this kid sits and watches TV with his parents and he's like in middle school. Like, this is strange. Everything about it is just very strange. So he's convinced that something sinister is going on. So he continues to do as much investigating as he can. Like at one point, he goes and he asks one of the neighbors, who's like a little old lady who's lived there for years, do you remember this family? What was it like when they lived here? And she said, oh, when they first moved in, they were really lively and friendly and always outside playing. And then that kind of ended and we hardly ever saw them anymore after that. They just kind of stopped playing outside and they became very, very quiet. So that was also another inkling of his suspicion. So, spoiler alert, here comes a little bit. This is when I figured out pretty early on, like a third of the way through the book, that I was pretty sure that at least the son was kidnapped and wasn't like part of the family. He was like being held captive in this family. I was pretty sure about that. The older sister, was she also kidnapped? I wasn't sure, but I did feel very confident that the younger brother, who was like always sitting in between his parents watching TV and never spoke, etc., I was pretty convinced he was a victim of kidnapping. This family kidnapped him. However, I wasn't sure like how or why or when, and was the older sister also a victim of kidnapping? I didn't know, so I kept reading, but I was pretty confident that was what was happening. So things continue along. They, you know, the boy, the narrator, and the girl, the older sister, end up getting pretty close. They talk a lot, but he's still super suspicious and not quite sure what to do, so he keeps investigating. About halfway through the book, the narrator changes, and now the older sister is narrating the story, and it goes back in time to her childhood when she learns that her parents are going to have a baby and she's going to have a little brother, which she does. They have the baby, they have a little brother, and as it turns out, this is back when they were living in the old house where the boy narrator currently lives. So they were living in this house, they have the baby, and when the brother was about, I want to say like 4-ish, he fell in a well or like the sump pump hole or something. It wasn't super clear. But he falls into this sump pump while the sister, who was I think 11 at the time, was supposed to be babysitting. So she like went into the house because it was cold and he was playing in the tree. And she's like, I want to go in the house. And he wouldn't get out of the tree. So she went in because she was cold and was thinking, oh, I'll just watch him from the window. But in the time it took her to walk into the house, take off her coat, her shoes, etc., and then peek back out the window, he wasn't in the tree anymore. He didn't know where he was. So she runs back outside searching for him, and she finds him down in this well hole sump pump thing. And unfortunately, he drowned and he died. And this was like, oh, okay, it's all starting to click for me. I'm starting to figure it out. Are you starting to figure out where it's all going to go? So then mom and dad come home and they're like, oh crap, what are we going to do? Well, obviously they're very distraught and they're bawling, but they're also freaking out because they think they're going to get in trouble because they left their 11-year-old at home alone for like a half an hour, or whatever it was, and it caused their son to die. Like they're thinking, we're going to get in trouble. Our daughter's going to get taken from us. We're going to go to jail for like child endangerment. They're going to take our daughter from us. We're going to lose both our children. So they're freaking out, not sure what to do. So they literally do nothing. Like they just keep the dead son I don't know, somewhere. They put him somewhere they ended up just burying him randomly in the woods because they didn't want anybody to know what happened. It's all messed up. And then they tell the girl, this poor girl, like she still has to go to school every day and act like nothing happened because they're like, we don't know what to do. So we're going to pretend like nothing happened and you're just going to go to school, pretend like everything's fine, etc. And then over the course of several months, they keep this a secret and they say like, oh, he has this cold, he has that cold. He's still recovering, blah, 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 blah. So they basically lie to everybody and hide the fact that their son has died. And instead, mom comes to the decision that they're just going to replace him. Pardon me. They're going to find another boy who looks like him and steal him, kidnap him. So she starts training the older sister, on how she can be the one to lure a child away from his family so that they can take him. And the mom convinces the daughter that this is actually going to be beneficial because first of all, they'll go to jail. She'll go into the foster care system. She'll never see her family again, blah, 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 blah. It's her fault that the brother died. So she has to do this to save the family, which is, it's a fictional character, but poor girl. And her mom also convinces her that they're going to take a child from a family that is neglectful and not good enough. And like this child, this little boy that they're going to steal from a family is going to have it better with their family because whoever they take this child from is a bad family anyway. So they spend months like convincing the sister to do this and prepping her on how to lure a child away from his mother and how to choose the right kid, one who sort of looks like their dead son, so it's passable, etc. So they finally do it. I was right. Another spoiler alert. I was right. They did, in fact, kidnap a little boy. So the little brother was kidnapped. And the story goes on that they are trying to, at first they're like, oh, well, your mom's sick, so we're going to watch you for a little while until she's better. And he keeps asking, when am I going to go home to my mom? I miss my mom. I miss my mom. And eventually he slowly but surely quits asking because the mom gets angry and yells at him and is constantly trying to bribe him, whatever, like his favorite foods and buying him toys all the time and things of that nature. So over time, he kind of comes to the realization that he's not going anywhere. He's trapped here forever. But the older sister feels guilty because she sees on the news the boy's mother saying, I miss my baby, please bring him home, etc., etc. So the sister ends up kind of trying to help him escape, gets him and packs a backpack full of stuff and takes him out of the house almost as if she's going to take him home or take him to the police station or something. But the mom catches them. So that, as it turns out, is why there were locks on the door, because the sister tried to escape with the brother, the kidnapped brother, and take them home. And the mom was absolutely furious and freaks out and basically puts the locks on the doors. And whenever they get home from school, they have to go in their room permanently for the evening. And that's the life now, because you tried to escape. That's what you have to do from now on. So that was that for quite a while until eventually they stopped doing that. And instead they just stopped trying to escape. So years and years go by, and eventually they decide to move into this new house. They want a fresh start where there aren't all these negative memories of everything that happened with the brother and the new brother, etc. So that's why they ended up moving. And in the meantime, the daughter still harbors all this guilt, not just for causing the death of her brother, but then also kidnapping somebody. So she has a lot of issues. And then as it turns out, we slowly and surely find out that the father never wanted to do this, that the wife basically forced it on them. And anytime anybody brought up the dead brother or the fact that he's kidnapped and wrong, etc., mom would freak out and scream. And it just slowly but surely, they just stopped talking about it, stopped trying, and went with it. So it's all pretty freaking messed up. So now we're like most of the way through the book, and it switches back to the original narrator, the young teenage boy from the beginning. So we're back to his side of the story, and he figured it out. He realized that, yes, this brother was in fact kidnapped, and he figured it all out. Oh, the reason he figured it out, I remember now, is at some point he heard somebody say Logan. I think the sister might have said the name Logan, and so he Googled Logan kidnapped and like a year frame, and it came up and he found it online. So he figured it out. And so he basically calls out the sister and says something about like, this is wrong, like you need to send him back to his own family, etc. But somehow the mother figures out that he knows. So the mother, a little sidebar I forgot to mention earlier, he has a younger stepbrother because his mom remarried and he has that older stepsister. And then he also has a younger stepbrother who lives with mom most of the time. And occasionally he comes over and spends a weekend with his dad in their house. So this one weekend when the little brother, who's I think 3, is staying at their house, the mom kidnaps him. Yeah, because, she's got skills. She knows how to kidnap kids. So she kidnaps his little brother, and the whole family's freaking out. Where's the baby? Where's the baby? Luckily, the mom didn't, like, kidnap him. It was just, like, a threat. So she brings him back. Now, the narrator, the young boy, or the teenage boy, knows that she kidnapped him. But she ends up coming back with him. She's like, oh my gosh, I found him. He was down the street. I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And basically acts like she's the savior and like saved him and found him. But the narrator, as well as the sister, the kidnapping sister, know it to be true. And also at this point, he tells his stepsister everything. So now she knows what's going on. So now we have the narrator, the kidnapper sister, and then the narrator's sister all kind of working together to try to figure out what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this? Now she holds this over our head. We know she can take our baby brother anytime. She's like, what are we going to do? So what they end up doing is they come up with this surprisingly good plan because they know she's like not stable, shall we say. So they go to this little special place in the woods that they know the mom has reserved for mourning, because she doesn't want to go to the actual burial site. So she goes to like the special place where she has a little stone, a memorial, and she goes there and she has a moment with, her dead son. So they use that and they go there and they mess it up and they dig a hole as if they're looking for his dead body, assuming that the dead body is buried there. It's not, but they mess it up. And then when you're reading it, you think they're legitimately looking for the dead body. But as it turns out, they did that on purpose because they knew it would infuriate her and it would push her over the edge so that she wouldn't be able to hold it together if anybody brought it up or asked her questions or anything like that happened. So they do that, and then the mom gets all angry and upset, just like they planned. And they get her basically to come after the narrator. So the narrator kind of planned it all out. They knew she would come after him whenever she found the dug up area in the woods. But what he did is he set up a camera and a microphone, et cetera, in his house. And knowing that she would come and get him when he was alone, but he wasn't actually alone. There were other people in the house. She comes in the house and she's like, what did you do? How dare you? Just because you think you're not going to mess up my family. You're not going to ruin my family and take away everything we've worked for. And basically confesses to everything, but also threatens him, saying, if you tell anybody or if you keep messing with my family, I took your baby brother once, I'll take him again, and this time I won't bring him back. Like all these terrible threats. Unbeknownst to her, he recorded everything and ends up taking the recording to the police station with the sister, the kidnapping sister. And she also confesses everything and says, yes, this is true. My mother made me do this. I didn't want to. I was forced, etc., etc. So as it turns out, the story ends on a pretty happy note where the mother and the father who kidnapped the little boy are arrested. And then the little boy finally gets to go home. It's been, well, let's see. I think he's 10 now. So 6 years. They kidnapped him 6 years ago and have been basically holding him hostage for 6 years. So finally at the end, he goes home and there's you don't actually see when he goes home and sees his parents, but you do hear like the news, or maybe the narrator reads the news. I can't remember if he's watching the news or he reads the news, but you as the reader get to find out that he gets reunited with his mother and everybody's happy. And then you come to find out that she was a single mom and he was her only child. So, like, when he was kidnapped, she was left alone, and she searched for him all this time and never gave up hope. The police stopped looking for him because, like, after so much time, it was a cold case. So it, ended happy. He finally went home, and the sister ended up, she did not get in any trouble because she was a minor and they realized that like it was all the mom who like forced her to do it essentially. And so she just ended up like in therapy and foster care and things like that. So it ended up pretty good for her too. Also, the narrator, the one that has like anxiety and OCD, for some reason, the fact that he was right about these things and he recognized the legitimate concern and like he figured out like there's something wrong with his kid. He needs help. I think he's kidnapped. The sister also seems to be in distress. He kind of somehow that helped him with his anxiety and mental health issues. And he essentially ends up, I wouldn't say better, but he really gets over the hump. And by the end of the book, he isn't doing his OCD behaviors anymore. In the beginning, for example, every night after everybody went to bed, he would have to go downstairs and check every door and every window multiple times. And he would have to say this little recital thing about, locking the doors and closing the windows and checking all of that. That was just something that he had to do because of his OCD and anxiety. So at the end of the book, after all of this was taken care of, he doesn't have to do that anymore. He feels like whatever bad things have happened, I recognized it and I remedied it. And that essentially caused him to no longer fret all the time because he kind of got, some positive self-trust, self-worth, I guess, for lack of better phrasing. But it ended nicely, and I was very happy about it ending nicely. Oh, I have got mascara on my nose. It ended with a happy ending, and it's not very often that you have a mystery novel such as this that ends with a happy note. The kidnapped boy gets back with his family. The evil parents end up getting arrested. The kidnapping girl, it wasn't the greatest for her, but she did, she didn't get in trouble like she expected. She was told by her parents she was going to go to jail, and she didn't. So it ended happy for her. She just escaped her parents, whatnot. So yeah, that's how the book ends. I really liked it. Like I said, it was a little bit predictable, a little bit on the slower side, just a little bit on the slower side. And again, I did kind of figure out that he was a kidnapped child fairly early on, but it didn't deter me from reading more. I was still wanting to find out why and how. And then when it switched to the sister's point of view, and it started off with, oh, she's having a baby brother. And I'm like, well, then where's this kidnapped kid come in? Like, I feel really confident about this kidnapped kid. And then the brother died, and I was like, aha, that's it. That's what happened. So I liked that it was predictable enough that I saw what was coming, but not predictable enough that I knew exactly how it was all going to come together. And it was it was a quick read because it was a little bit more, what's the word? It was a little bit more, not slow pace. That's not what I mean. It wasn't super of a complicated mystery. I mean, there weren't like a ton of characters. There weren't super weird twists or anything where you felt like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It was a light mystery, if that makes sense. I would give it out of 10. I think a 7 out of 10. I really liked it, but I usually enjoy those books that are more intense and more complicated and have a lot of interesting twists along the way that this one didn't, in my opinion. So I would still recommend it. Even if though I only give it a 7 out of 10, I would still recommend it. I still really enjoyed it. And I think people should give it a try. And like I said, well, I don't think it's $5 anymore. I'm pretty sure there's a new book out in their $5 bin. Hold on, I want to put on a little bit more blush. I don't feel like I'm very blushy. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, and also I like this color better with the rest of my look. There we go. Yeah. All right, so that's the end of my story. I hope the way I described this book to you intrigues you and you want to go give it a try. Like I said, I don't think it's $5 anymore. I think there's a new book on their shelf, but it's marked at $10.99, so $11, still not that bad. Lock the Doors by Vincent Ralph, published in 2022. It's a new book. Highly recommend, especially if you like a light mystery. And I hope you like my look today. I went with some like pinky shades today. So that's it. I hope you have a great day today. And if there are any books or looks that you think I should give a try, put it in the comment section below and I'll give it a look. Thanks. Stay beautiful inside and out. Bye.